Howdy, all. Just as a little pre-show stuff, we got a couple things. Russ, you first with the.
Yeah, let's talk about the process that we've been hearing about for years. I guess it's like 4 years, I think, with the Sixers. And until last night, they opened up against the Wizards, and all of their guys finally played together. But before that game, there was talk that Joel Embiid was going to be limited to 16 minutes, and he had a cursing little tirade, and so I guess before the game they decided, well, we're not going to go 16, so they ended up going 27. But it's still not enough. They lost by 5. He had about 18 points, 13 rebounds, and whatever else. And my feeling is it's the same as Michael Jordan. Anybody great player, LeBron James, if you're the opposing coach, you're waiting for that great player to take a rest, and then you're loading up the lineup and getting as many points as you can while that guy's out of the game. If you know that he can only play 27 minutes, if he's never going to play 30 or above, you can really game plan against that, and I think that's going to hurt the Sixers. So it'll be interesting to see how long they go with that, because I don't think it's going to keep him healthy any longer. I think it's a misnomer.
Well, I know that the sports science thing has had an effect league-wide, sport-wide, not just basketball, but hockey, but baseball, everybody. I mean, I think it's one of the factors in baseball why all of a sudden the 100 pitches, the magic line of demarcation. If the guy goes 101, it's like, oh my God, Justin Verlander pitches 125 pitches and like he's ready for Tommy John surgery, basically. Right. But I know that the Leafs use it, but the only thing that I see that it really affects anything with the Leafs, you don't see right now, in spite of, I think, most teams, if they had Austin Matthews, they would be playing him 20 minutes a game, maybe even double shifting him sometimes on the fourth line.
Yeah.
Babcock's not doing it. He's rolling his 3 offensive lines, and his fourth line gets pretty good minutes. They played their first back-to-backs of the season, and in neither game did they overload anybody. It was pretty balanced between the 4 lines. So I think they're fighting that urge, and maybe Babcock is doing it probably just because he knows it's maybe too much too soon for Matthews to load him up. And I think that's an effect of the sports science thing.
Yeah, no doubt it's an effect of it. And so it's just, again, you have to watch out in any sport. It's like, it is good to limit minutes. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think, we talked about Ryan McDonough playing 27 minutes was way too much, and he's playing too many minutes lately.
Right.
But when you are at a young age like that and you're seemingly not having any negative effects and you're into your second season, he could play 20 minutes. It's not going to kill him.
No. The other thing I wanted to mention before we start the show, as it's known, I'm a big baseball fan, a big Yankees fan, and right now there's celebratory glee going on in New York because they come back from 2-0 to win 3-2 to lead the series 3-2. I wouldn't be celebrating just yet because I remember 2001 when they did the same thing. They lost the first 2 in Arizona. They came back. They won 3 in dramatic fashion in Yankee Stadium, and they went back at Game 6 and they got walloped by Arizona. And then Game 7 they should have won, but Mariano was uncharacteristically human and blew it in the 9th inning. So it's very possible that Houston's going to come back in this series, just like the series.
But the Yankees do have to thank the Mets because the Yankees' biggest marketing plan is due to a Met fan with the whole thumbs down thing.
Yeah, that's the most hilarious thing. I absolutely love that. Like now, everybody they get on second base. And it's just so great. It's beautiful.
It's fun.
And now there's talk that the Mets' future third baseman may be re-signed by the Yankees because he's such an inspiring leader, Todd Frazier. Anyway, all right, let's get the show started. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Thursday, October 19th, 2017.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. And I have to say that I am countering X Drink a Toast. And when you see this orange-colored substance that I'm either fighting off a cold or I'm in the midst of a cold. Here I'm trying to fight one off. I have the cough. I don't have the cold. And I've got the tang. It was good for the astronauts, so it's good enough for Mike Agello.
I'm completely healthy, man.
Well, some of us can't boast that, but anyway.
I just went out for a nice walk. It's like 70 degrees here, Shut up.
All right, So
Angry.
three games in the NHL last night. We'll start with the one on the West Coast. The LA Kings beat the Montreal Canadiens 5-1. During that game, now I still haven't seen the replay, but I've seen the reports this morning. Jeff Carter suffered a laceration from a skate, and according to the reports, it's a lacerated tendon. Now, I believe it's a leg tendon. If it is, they're saying multiple weeks. Now, I remember Dion Phaneuf getting a skate cut, and I think it was on his thigh. It was a weird sort of play, like a player got knocked down and his skate hit his. He was out for 6 weeks, and we're talking about a team.
It depends. Did it hit a vein? Did it not hit a vein? That's what it matters.
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is that if you look, I mean, the Kings got off to a great start, but they're not very deep offensively, and Jeff Carter is a main cog offensively for that team. So this could be pretty dramatic for the LA Kings if he's out a significant period of time.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's a tough injury. They're off to a great start. Quick looks great. And now they have this. Like, it's just unbelievable sometimes in the NHL. Like, those things happen, and it could just derail a season rather. It really can. I can give you – there's some possibilities. Mitchell Stevens, who is a center, but I'm sure can play some wing, or they can move people around. He's got 4 points in 5 games in Syracuse.
But apparently, and this is not – it hasn't been done yet. I haven't heard that it was actually done. But John Shannon from Sportsnet, it was either John Shannon or –
he's with Tampa. I'm thinking of Dave somebody else. Hold on, I'm confusing. Go ahead.
Okay, it was either John Shannon or Chris Johnston from Sportsnet reported that if he is out for multiple weeks, that somebody who played with them on a PTO during training camp will be signed, and that would be Brooks Laich. That
doesn't mean that he's going to play, though. He'll be signed, and if he doesn't look good, you know what I mean? Like that could be just bringing him in and let's see what he looks like.
It could be a depth move. He's a veteran guy. He could fill in when needed. Yes, maybe they would just elevate everybody else. But if they do lose him for a significant period of time, it's going to hurt them. Now,
the guy I was getting them mixed up with is Spencer Watson's in Ontario. I mean, he's only a couple of games into his AHL career, but he's a winger, and I got to tell you, he could score goals, man. Last year, he had 28 in 41 games. The year before, 43 in 64 games. You never know.
Now, last night, the offense came from 2 main sources. One is not surprising, although he's slowed down over the last few years. Mike Camilleri, former Canadian, had a couple goals. But Adrian Kempe scores his first NHL hat trick. Yeah, and we've been waiting for a couple years for Kempe, and finally I think they're going to give him the opportunity. This guy's got a lot of offensive talent for us.
He does, and he's tough. He's got skating ability. He works hard in the corners, but he really does have a great shot, and I'm happy. This is where the Kings get a lot of credit, too, because they always stick with their guys. They're never too fast to bring them up, and they're never too fast to keep sending them down and bringing them up and doing the yo-yoing. They have a really good way of doing it with their player development, and this is a big deal. I mean, Kempe is – this could be a big thing for him. I mean, he literally could step into the Jeff Carter role. I mean, that's, if he keeps scoring, that's what's going to happen, whether it was planned or not. And so, yeah, I'm happy for him. I think that's a great thing to happen.
Now, on the other side of the game there, Montreal again. Hi, Kaya. Montreal struggling. They go with Al Montoya.
I'd say they're struggling.
They go with Al Montoya. He gives up 5 goals on 42 shots, which, I mean, giving up 42 shots is a problem in and of itself. But, Russ, I mean, I don't know how long the Canadians can continue to go on.
I don't know how much longer either. I don't know how much longer.
Well, I'll just do a monologue while you're taking care of Kaya. I don't know how long Montreal can go based on the way that they're playing right now, based on what has happened in terms of their offense, that they can continue to go down this road without making some significant change. Now, you can say they've made enough changes, but as I've said many a time over the summer, the changes they made were idiotic. They did, they I think Jonathan Drouin is a great offensive talent. I just don't think he's a center.
I mean, I don't want to proclaim that just yet, but it's it's starting to look that way. It is, and it's tough because then if that didn't work out, then they're really in trouble.
And Claude Julien not only has moved Galchenyuk from center to wing, now he's moved him to the fourth line. And you talk about the decreasing a player's value. If their intent was to trade him, they're not doing themselves any favors, because by playing Galchenyuk on the fourth line, you're sending an email to every NHL general manager saying, we think this guy's a bust. And I don't think he's a bust. I think he's a talented player. But the way they're treating him, it's like, what's going on?
He's a talented player. This is all about playing that 200-foot game, and if you don't do it perfect, Claude's not going to like it. And I think that's where they're at right now, and it's tough because he.
But this is the thing. Bergevin had to know that last year. It took Julien, I think, 2 periods to move Galchenyuk from center to the wing, so that he was never going to give him another shot to play center. And then they re-signed him to that extension. Why? Oh, why did you not? I mean, unless you couldn't get what you thought he was worth. I mean, you're not going to get what you think he's worth now based on the way he's playing right now.
This is how horrific the scoring is on Montreal. Drouin's got 5 points, Alzner 3, Weber 2, Byron 2, Gallagher 2, Deneau 2, Lehkonen 2, and then guys like Plekanec, Petrie, Pacioretty, Galchenyuk, Shaw, Hudon, Mete, all 1. That's
okay, ladies and gentlemen, friends and neighbors, Carl Alzner is your second leading scorer for the Montreal Canadiens.
Crazy.
Thank you very much.
Jonathan Drouin is leading the team in goals with 2.
Yeah, I
didn't think it would be this bad. It's bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's Nazem Kadri would be leading the Montreal Canadiens in scoring right now based on what he's got with the Leafs. It's pathetic. But the thing is, we could see this coming a mile away, Russ. I don't get it. Bergevin, I've always considered Bergevin an astute hockey guy, but
he's definitely an astute cap guy. I can't support all of his moves, obviously. This is a tough one. Like I said, this is where now they're going to have to do it from within. Now, Hudon's not starting off well, but he's not doing any worse than Pacioretty.
Right.
But he's a -6, so that's not going to keep him up with the team. This is I don't have an answer. We've seen what happens when they bring up some of the guys from Hamilton, and we don't ever see them fitting in well enough. I don't know what the function of that is either. Like, who are you going to bring up?
Well, they already have Jakob Delarose playing. You're going to bring up Michael McCarron, is who you're going to bring up.
I know, but he never does anything.
Right, but I mean, right now it might be just cosmetic right now. But no, Russ, what they have to do, even if it's not from a position of weakness, is they have to make a deal. They either have to, if they're talking about Duchesne
deal right now, it is. I don't think anybody can make a deal. Most teams are close to the cap. I don't think it's going to be easy to make a deal at all. I think that's a problematic thing too.
Well, it depends. Okay, I mean, if all the talk about that being involved in talks regarding Duchesne,
actually, the guy who they need to bring up, I have the guy. The guy they need to bring up is Nikita Sherbak, and let's see where he's at.
I've seen him play. I think he's NHL capable, but he's not a savior. That's what I'm saying. He's not a savior.
Nobody's going to be a savior, but they just need more scorers, and
they need to spark. I mean, could they really depend on Paul Byron to score 21 goals again, or 20 plus?
No, but I think he could score 15 or 17.
I agreed, but I mean, I think they were depending on the 20.
Yeah.
No, I think okay. Brendan Gallagher had a bad year offensively last year. Maybe it's the fact that he's a smaller guy, and no matter how good a shape he's in, he's a smaller guy who's been beaten up over years, and the injuries may have slowed him down a little bit. I mean, he's still
McCarron's got 2 points. Like I don't think I could bring up McCarron now.
That's why I think that the answer for Montreal is outside the organization and not.
No, but here's the thing, though. There is a guy that they have down low that did do well in a short time for Carolina, and Chris Terry. He was able to pop in 8 goals a few years ago. Like maybe
we're talking about a 4th line guy there.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's all they got. I mean it's they're all going to be 3rd or 4th line guys, but at least maybe you get something out of Terry or Sherback. I mean Peter Holland's there. He's clearly a 4th round guy. I mean Peter Holland's no, and Byron Fraze is not an answer either. So no, but those 2 guys, like that's it. I don't think they're going to be able to make a deal. That's the thing.
Yeah, no, I think they can make a deal because Russ. The one thing that they do have that other teams don't have is they have salary cap room. They have $9 million in salary cap room. They didn't spend it.
Yeah, but a lot of teams aren't willing to do a cap dump yet because it sends a message to their fan base that they don't want to send, But
but I don't think we're talking about a cap dump here. I think we're talking about an actual hockey deal.
Who are you going to trade with? Vegas? Maybe Vegas is the only team you can trade with because they're open
Colorado.
For a year.
Duchesne.
Oh yeah, because it's been so easy to acquire Matt Duchesne.
Well, no, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying what I'm saying is that desperation at this point is starting to set in Montreal. I mean, we're talking 7 games into the season.
Yeah.
It's not completely out of the question. They can turn it around.
For people wondering who could they offer to get Matt Duchesne, Pacioretty probably have to be in the deal. They'd have to cut bait with Pacioretty, which is fine because
I think Galchenyuk would be part of It would have to be Galchenyuk and probably.
Yeah, I don't think they would do it at this point.
No, I think it would probably have to be Galchenyuk and a Juleson.
I don't even know if they would take that.
Or Galchenyuk and a number 1.
I don't think they want the number 1. I think they want 2 players, and I don't think Galchenyuk and Juleson will do it. I think Pacioretty and somebody else would do it. I mean, they're going to have to if they want a player like that. They're going to have to take somebody who is already a part of that team, and why not rip out the captain? What is the captain doing for him anyhow?
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, he has
already signed for what 3-4 more years.
I think it's 2.
2 more? Okay.
Yeah,
but that's 2 more than Duchesne. So
true. Well, no, Duchesne's got this year and next year.
Oh, he does. Okay, so
yeah. Pacioretty is the same this year and next year.
Right, so it's a fair swap, and then whoever the other player is, that's the kind of deal that's going to have to happen.
I think that deal's counterproductive, though.
Yeah,
because you're giving up a scoring winger for a scoring guy who's either a center or a winger. I think you know what it'd have to be. Maybe be Galchenyuk and Victor Mete. He's a young defenseman. If Colorado likes him, that might be enough. But
here's the thing: for people asking, I don't even think Montreal has the assets anymore to get Tavares.
No, they're gonna have to wait until and hope that he goes UFA next July, and they have the cap room, because they'll have at least $15 million in cap space with Plakanitz's contract expiring.
The Islanders already own Montreal's 1st round pick, so anybody thinking that they could get a 1st round pick, I think the Islanders somehow have it. Somebody mentioned that the other day. Let's see. Yeah,
I don't know.
They could be wrong. I'll look.
Yeah, I don't remember that deal. Maybe they got it indirectly, but
they might have gotten it indirectly.
Anyway, move on to one of the other games. St. Louis and Chicago, that Central Division rivalry, 2 teams that hate each other. And before the game, or maybe during the first TV timeout, the crowd acknowledged Eddie Olczyk, the color commentator for NBC, the former Leaf, the former Winnipeg Jet, former Ranger, who's just come back from chemo, and he was diagnosed with I believe it was it was intestinal cancer, and he looked great, and everybody gave him a great round of applause, which is a great thing. And hopefully, knowing I had members of my family who have perished from cancer. I really hope he's beaten it because it's a terrible disease.
And he's a great guy. I've had chats with him. He's really a good guy. He loves the sport. He's always been an ambassador to the sport. So I really hope it works out.
Yeah, and he's also strangely enough, he's also very good on the Kentucky Derby, the coverage for NBC. I guess that was a hobby of his when he was a player, and he's just turned it into another ability, being part of the NBC crew, and that's great. But getting to the game though, Blues win 5-2. Jaden Schwartz, who's had some injury problems over the last few years, scores a hat trick. Blackhawks are doing okay at the start of the season, but I still think that there's a little bit of unsettling there with that defense. It's Seabrook, it's Keith, and it's a bunch of, not nobodies, but a bunch of guys who you're not certain if they're NHLers. They have to prove themselves, the Kempneys, the Forslings, the Rudas.
Yeah, the Canadians do have their pick. Okay. They've traded away some other picks, but not the first.
Yeah, the strange thing is that Connor Murphy is not playing regularly, and this is prototypical of Joel Quenneville. Now, remember, Russ, we were at the draft in Chicago. We saw Joel Quenneville not exactly happy after the Yarmulson deal was announced.
Right.
And he has had a history with players who have gone to other teams and won Stanley Cups, like Trevor Daley, I believe, of not playing those guys because he didn't like them. He didn't like the way they played. Well, Connor Murphy might be like that. It's somebody who he doesn't feel comfortable with, so he's not going to play him. So he's going to play Kempney and Ruda and all these other guys instead of him.
He will. I mean, again, we saw what happened at the draft when Yarmulson was traded. Yeah. We know how Quenneville operates. It's very hard to play for him as a young defenseman. Kempney has played overseas. Like, you have to have a certain amount of pro in you to survive in that Quenneville rotation.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday Murphy did play, but I know he has sat a few games. Yeah. But their defense was Keith, Murphy, Kempney, Seabrook, Forsling, Ruda, and did I miss one? No, that was it. So that was their 6. But if he doesn't like a guy, he's not going to play him.
No.
So maybe he's trying to teach him a little bit of a lesson. You got to conform to what I want you to do. And if he does that, then I think it'll work out. But it's a drop off. I mean, Yarmulson was one of that cornerstone 3. He was a dependable guy. And normally teams that are successful, they have 4 defensemen, that they can really rotate. In the last time the Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup, they had 3, and they played Duncan Keith to death. I mean, he played 30 minutes a game. You can't do that with 2 defensemen. They're
still 4-2-1. They're doing okay.
They're doing okay. I'm just saying. I think that's a little bit of a that's an area where if they have the room, Stan Bowman's probably going to have to address that as the season rolls on.
The real issue is what's wrong with Minnesota. Like, they're 1-1-2. I know Parisi's been out, but is that really enough? I mean, they should have enough scoring at this point with other guys in there. Like,
Niederreiter's out too. I know he's on the IR.
Okay, but again, are they too defensive with Yo and is that now hurting them with these guys?
With Boudreau. With Boudreau, sorry. I keep getting them confused sometimes too. But it would be surprising if they're too defensive with Boudreau because Boudreau has the reputation of being sort of a wide open offensive guy.
I know, but they've scored 18 goals, which is pretty low in that division. Only Dallas and Minnesota. They have 15 goals. So only Dallas has less goals.
Well, I mean, the problem, and I saw when we did our season previews, the problem I saw with Minnesota is that core group that's been around for maybe 4 or 5 years, that they signed Suter and Parise at the same time for big money. Suter, Parise, Mikko Koivu, that group, they've been around for a while and they're getting older. And you do have the younger group. You do have, and Eric Stahl is added to that group. He's a 30-plus guy. But Niederreiter, Coyle, Zucker, that younger group has to take out Granlund. Now, Granlund had a great year last year, but I don't know if that younger group is not producing. I don't think that older group can put the team on their shoulders anymore.
It's true. It's true. I mean, we're going to see what happens. Now, it'll be interesting because, tonight we've got Dallas at Arizona. And, boy, if Arizona starts off 0-6-1, I don't know, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's talk about that because it's really strange. If you had asked me, and probably if we'd asked you at the beginning of the season, which team would be 0-6-1 and which team would be 5-1, Arizona or Vegas, we would have all said
what
Vegas.
my answer would have been, yeah.
Yeah, we would have said Vegas would be 0-6-1, and we would have said Arizona would be 5-1 because you look at Arizona just on paper, they have the top four that's excellent. They have young forwards who are very talented. The goaltending is a question mark. And right now in Vegas, you've got – Fleury is injured, but he played well when he was healthy. Now they've gone with Malcolm Subban the last couple games, who a lot of people still don't think is NHL ready, but he's being forced into the situation.
We'll find out.
Yeah, but, Arizona right now, it's puzzling. And I know you were telling me off air before that – there was something with Rick Tocchet where he's already apologized to the fans for how unprepared the team is. Well, excuse me, Rick, you're the coach. You're at fault if they're unprepared.
Yeah, he said they were a mess, and it was his fault. And I appreciate him doing that. Their goal differentials -13. Like, they really – this is a team that should have some scoring. They have 12 goals.
Well, they've worked hard to – They've worked hard to put together, I think, a defense that is fairly capable. And if you look, Ekman-Larsson, Yarmolson, Demers, and Goligoski is not a bad top four.
No.
Now, if your forwards are not coming back and participating in the team defense and leaving these defensemen hanging out to dry, then that's something that's coaching. You have to just get your forwards to buy in and play a two-way game. If they're not doing that, then they're
But the problem is goaltending too, because now that Mike Smith isn't there,
right?
They just called up Aiden Hill. Like, all of a sudden he's in the mix now. So Ranta is already failing. Hill played last game, I believe. So they don't even know who their goalie is.
Yeah, the first fail safe for Ranta was Domingue, and it must be either Domingue is sick or hurt. I haven't heard. But
Hill's starting this next game tonight too.
So maybe both of them are hurt, or both of them are sick.
No, I think Ranta's just bad.
Yeah, but honestly, if you're going to Aiden Hill in Game 7. Even if Ronta's struggling, you throw him out there. It's a guy who's unproven against a guy who was supposed to be your number one. Fight through it. That's terrible. If that's a coaching decision, that's a bad one.
Yeah, like I said, it's hard to say what's going on there, but these are really bad things going on now. They're not getting the same press as the Rangers and the Canadiens because there are no expectations in Arizona. But again, I always bring up, at some point, things have to turn around from a rebuild.
Right. The other game last night, I was at the Wings and the Leafs, and in the second of back-to-back games, Toronto came out. And this is the weird thing. I said this on Twitter last night, and I got a few laughs from people. It's like the Red Wings allowed 4 goals in the first period.
Right.
Jimmy Howard allowed 3. He was pulled in favor of Mrazek. He led in a Connor Brown shot. So it was 4-1 after 1, and the Leafs had 5 shots. The save percentage of Detroit was at the Mendoza line. After the game, some of the players and even Mike Babcock said, well, we really didn't play that great in the first period, but yet they had 4 goals. A couple of them were pretty questionable. Howard on the short side allowed one to Kadri, and we, like I said, I've been concerned about Detroit's goaltending being up to snuff for a couple years. I've never been a big Jimmy Howard fan, but I know in limited games last year he played well. The thing is, Toronto, they've done this 3 times, Russ. They've bolted out in the first period, big numbers, 5 goals against the Rangers, 4 goals against Detroit, 3 goals against Winnipeg. And in only the game against Winnipeg did they not have a problem holding on to the lead. I think they were leading 7-0 and ended up winning 7-2. In this game, it was 4-1 after one. Detroit got it to 4-3 on a couple power play goals. Had some chances to tie the game, and then the Leafs got a power play goal, make it 5-3, and then added another goal on, and then pretty much slammed the door in the third period. But again, the Leafs have to be concerned about being able to hold those leads. And I think that there's still a little bit of immaturity there with them being able to slam the door. Babcock's not satisfied yet, but I think that, they might be able to get there, but I still think they're going to need to add somebody before the deadline to solidify that defense.
Yeah, they will. And talking about, and look, right now, you're preaching to the choir because the team is winning. But what you're talking about could be something that happens later in the season that undermines them. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. There is breaking news, though. Somebody has added a defenseman, and that the Buffalo Sabres have signed Stuart Percy. It's really the Amerks. Stuart Percy to a PTO. And you're very familiar with Stuart Percy. I liked him. I'll be honest. I liked him in this draft year. I'm not sure what happened to him, but this is where the Sabres are at right now.
Well, Stuart Percy, it was funny. He got a 9-game tryout with the Leafs and played very well. I think it was 2014.
Yep.
Yeah, 2013-14. 3 assists in 9 games. He played really well. They didn't want to burn the year of entry level. He got sent to the Marlies. He got concussed right after that. And I don't know if he was never the same, but he never seemed to get back to that level where he's not an overly big player. He's not an overly quick player. He's a smart player, and he is able, but he's not great at one thing. He's good at a lot of things. But that seemed to limit him because he's not big, he's not really speedy, and maybe he just sort of doesn't fit. He may fit in as a 6'7" someday. I mean, he's still young, but and he was included as part of the actually, I think he just I can't remember if they traded him or if he was just not qualified.
Well, with 1-4-2 Buffalo Sabres, this is a clear thing that they're trying to build some depth at that position because that position is a problem.
Yeah, well, and that I'll give Jason Botterill a lot of credit for that. Last year, there was a lot of criticism regarding the Amerks and how there was no depth there. Alex Nylander was probably the best player, and he didn't have a good year, but he was probably the best and most talented player on the Amerks for most of the year because there was nobody else around.
Right.
And at least this year, I know Seth Griffith has been up with the Sabres for a time, but I think he was intended to be an Amerk, and they loaded up with some AHL veterans and some guys who could come up and play in the NHL if needs be. But it added to the depth of the organization and provided a little bit of a structure so some of these young guys would not be beaten up or would not be dependent on too young. I mean, you have to do that. You can't put all the weight on them and expect them to thrive. So I think that was a smart move by Botterill to improve the depth of the Amerks.
Yeah, an update on Carter. He's getting surgery, so there's no way he's back in 2 weeks after surgery.
Yeah, this is a 6 to 8 week injury, and that's big for the Kings because, like I said, they don't have a lot of scoring. So they're gonna have to hope that Adrian Kempe is coming of age and.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the right thing at the right time for them. There's no doubt.
But
here's also some news.
Sure.
The Capitals have promoted Tom Wilson to be on the top line with Backstrom and Oshie. I like it because Wilson could actually hang with those guys. People forget that he has good hands and he is a good skater and he'll do the dirty work.
Yeah.
And you know what? They need someone to do the dirty work for those guys.
Yeah, I mean that it does make sense. I mean, let's just say this. He's not the most offensively gifted guy, but he will go in front of the net and cause a stir.
Yep.
He will go into the corners and slam a defenseman. Yeah, that's within his skill set. So having him do that, having him go out and dig the puck and get it to Backstrom and get it to Oshie makes perfect sense. And they're keeping Ovechkin with Kuznetsov as the second line, or maybe that's the first line and Backstrom as the second line. Depends on ice time. But they need to sort of diversify their offense a little bit more. I don't know if this means that they'll move Burakovsky down to a lower line, but that's the thing I saw against the Leafs earlier in the week, Russ. They're a 2-line team now. Last year they were a 4-line team. You could get goals out of Jay Beagle and Daniel Winnick.
Yeah,
you're not getting goals out of Tyler Grauvick.
Yeah, I think Eller being out hurts that because he seems to be a fire starter for that fourth line, and he's not there. So
just to finish up on the Leafs, they had Curtis McElhinney in goal for his first game. He was a little rusty. Anderson has played 6 games. McElhinney played in the second of back-to-back. The Leafs only have 14 back-to-backs, and based on right now the way Babcock is approaching Freddie Anderson and the way he's depending on him, I think the only action that McElhinney is getting is in those back-to-backs.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's getting much more.
And
I would agree with that.
And I know Anderson got into great shape, but I don't like the trend of playing a goaltender 65 to 70 games. I think it's too much. I think they're worn down, and this is a goalie. Last year he had a career high 66 games, but he's had injury problems in the past, and I'm sure the Leaf management and Leaf coaching staff and Leaf players are knocking on wood that Anderson doesn't get hurt. I think that's one of the reasons they went out and got Calvin Pickard, because I don't think they think that McElhinney could handle a number one job if Anderson was down for 4 to 6 weeks. Pickard might be able to. So it's funny that if Anderson ever got hurt, I think Pickard would be the number one and not McElhinney.
So here's something. So tonight we have Islanders Rangers, and 1 win against 2 wins. Now this will be an ugly game. It will be, because both teams are desperate. Both teams don't like each other. Both teams are under scrutiny. This will be a very, very ugly game. I'll be very interested to see how the Rangers sort of attack this one and see if they become a little more physical in this one, or will the Islanders be the aggressor? We'll see how that sort of works out. But the Tavares talk's going to be there. I was asked on SiriusXM yesterday about John Tavares and what the odds were that I thought he would be a Ranger next year. And I said, early in the season, I would have made the percentage higher, but now with the coaching sort of up in the air for the Rangers, I don't know how John Tavares would feel about that if it was sort of a skew, right? Mm-hmm. Because if the Rangers don't have a great year, there's going to be talk that Alain Vigneault will get fired, right? Because he only has 1 more year on his deal anyhow. Right. So that may be a determining factor for Tavares, especially if he doesn't like Lindy Ruff. We don't know how he feels about Lindy Ruff, right? So when I said the percentage was 25, they were like, whoa, that's really high. That's low for you? I said, yeah, I was thinking it was going to be a lot higher. Remember, I was thinking that was the go-to team. And so now I'm not sure. But Steve Koulias was surprised that I said 25%. So we'll see. We'll see how all that works out now. It'll be interesting to sort of watch it, because there's going to be talk at some point in the Big Apple. There'll be talk.
Well, it right now, I mean, the Islanders thing is so unsettled. We talked about it with Kevin earlier in the week, and we talked about it also with that I mean, there has to be some sort of resolution to this I would say at least well in advance of the trade deadline. But because honestly, if you're the Islanders and it's not settled by the deadline, can you risk not trading John Tavares and getting the bevy of a return that you would get?
Yeah, they're going to have to, though, because this is a team that needs the revenue, wants to make the playoffs. If they trade away John Tavares, there's almost nobody they could pick up next year to sort of pick up where they left off, at least marketing-wise, especially if they announce a new arena. Like, again, Andrew Ladd is not being marketed in New York. Jordan Eberle is not being marketed in New York.
Yeah, what's more
marketable guys? Now, Hosang could be one of those if he gets hot.
What's more devastating to the New York Islanders? Allowing John Tavares to walk in July and getting nothing, or at least getting a pretty good return?
Well, I don't think they'll get nothing. I think what will happen is if they see they can't sign him, they'll trade his rights at the draft, and somebody will have an exclusive discussion with him before he becomes a free agent.
Well, that would have to be at the draft.
At the draft, yeah.
within 48 hours of because remember that 5-day negotiating window. So
yeah, and I think that's what will happen, and I think they'll get something out of that, whether it's a player or some sort of pick or conditional pick. And then I also think Tavares is still going to go back to them at the last minute to let them know what he's discovered, the same way as Stamkos, and that would give them a little more time on the stadium deal. So I think that's where we're at right now. So if you trade him, I know a lot of people say, well, trade him, you can get him back. Yeah, how often do we see that though?
Yeah, well, I think you might see that with Vegas. I think
Yes.
a guy like Neal, they could trade and then re-sign because they're going to have tons of cap room.
We don't see it a lot. Everybody likes to
see like Keith Kachuk and Dan, a few other guys. But yeah, you're right. Just going through the schedule here, starting out the West Coast, Coyotes and Stars, as Russ said, 0-5-1 versus 3-3-0 for the Stars. Flames versus Hurricanes. Avalanche, who are 4-3, shockingly, against the Blues, playing in the second back-to-back nights. Blackhawks playing Edmonton. So Blackhawks, they go from St. Louis to Edmonton. That's a tough second game of back-to-back is going to play the Oilers. Two of the hotter teams. Go ahead.
Well, the Oilers are in bad shape right
now. The Oilers are in bad shape right now. That is true. And again, with now Draisaitl's out with McDavid, with Nugent Hopkins backing up McDavid, that I think forces teams even more into the scenario that we've been talking about. You try to neutralize McDavid. You try to be physical with him. You try to get in his kitchen. And if all the weight of the offense is on Ryan Nugent Hopkins, I think your chances of winning are a lot better.
It's a lot of pressure for Yamamoto, even though the team's not putting pressure on him, but there's certainly pressure on him to score if they can neutralize McDavid. They're in a tough spot right now. They have to start winning.
Two of the hotter teams, the Devils, are 5-1 against Ottawa Senators.
That's two juggernauts right now.
Yeah, right. But coincidentally, Russ, and like we said it, they go 3-0-2 without Karlsson. Karlsson comes back and they get shut out by Vancouver. It's so weird because
it is weird. It's it is. Teams band together when your star is not there,
right?
And they do it. And then when he comes back, there's always a sigh of relief, and then there's a juggling of what's going on, and sometimes that little bit of chemistry, you got to rebuild it.
Yeah, the pressure is taking off the gas pedal there. I think the matchup of the night here, Columbus and Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I'm looking at that
one. I'll be watching that one. Flyers playing the Predators. Is that in Philly or is that in
Philly? But I will not be at that one.
Okay, and
I'm at a concert tonight. So
right, you mentioned Islanders Rangers, and Canucks and Bruins. And the Bruins have not had some good news in the last 24
No, it's getting tougher for Boston. I mean,
Ryan Spooner's out 4 to 6 weeks. I think it was a groin injury.
Yes.
And Tuukka Rask and Anders Bjork collided at practice yesterday. Rask was taken off the ice. It's suspected that it's a concussion. They basically wanted to wait until this morning to see how he felt, but he's not starting tonight against Vancouver. I guess that means that Khudobin is starting.
Here's the thing, okay? We talked about it. This is now Khudobin's chance to save the season in a way, to see if he could play a few games in a row and keep the momentum going. I mean, it's not great momentum there, but they had 2 wins at least. They've got to get going, and it's going to be up to Khudobin. Now, offensively, they are bringing up Kenny Agostino, who does have a lot of speed and is going to get a chance to play with them, I believe. And so that could be a nice little shot in the arm if he gets an opportunity. And because I've seen him at times look really good. We'll see. I mean, sometimes you just need a chance, man.
But let's just say this. If Rask is out for a significant period of time, they're in trouble too.
Yeah, they're definitely in trouble then. I mean, there's no question about it.
So that's it for the show. We'll discuss more. Eck will be back tomorrow for the Friday edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. So will Russ and I. So we'll keep him on the straight and narrow. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.